Well, right now, there is a cruise ship full of passengers who had eagerly planned a trip to spend the holidays in the Bahamas who were diverted to New Brunswick. Less than 24 hours before setting sail, passengers got an email that said due to bad weather, their ship's itinerary would mean they were heading north. So they were given the option to either get a future credit for a different cruise or board the ship and head towards Boston, Portland, and eventually Canada.
Originally, I packed 5 tank tops, some shorts, and some flip-flops.
So I have on this sweater. Underneath here, I have on another long sleeve. I have 4 layers of pants underneath here.
Yeah. Finished with Canada. I've seen enough.
It was so cold when they were there, like -14. So with some insight on what happened here, joining us this morning live is our travel journalist, Lauren Christie. Lauren, good morning to you. What a story.
I know, terrible.
Yeah, the MSC Cruise Company said that it was unseasonable weather that made it impossible to safely reach the Bahamas. First off, what reasons do there have to be in order to change the itinerary so significantly?
Well, I mean, there can be several reasons. You know, the contract of carriage that you have with a cruise company basically states that no ports are actually guaranteed. They can change. And there are a variety of reasons why they could change the itinerary, mostly regarding safety, you know, whether if the weather is going to cause safety issues or even just the ability to dock. But again, you know, we've seen as another example in recent months, you know, a lot of the Mediterranean cruises changed their itineraries to skip ports in Israel. So there's lots of reasons why folks can.
Sure, that's a good point. I want to bring up a map just so people get a real sense of how different the destinations ended up being. So there's the Bahamas at the bottom, and of course, then they had to head north. It does seem when you look at this like a really extreme change. How often does this happen?
I don't. This is extreme, Anne-Marie. I mean, first of all, it's a busy time of year. The cruise line basically what they said was they, explained that in order to find berths, last-minute berths along an unplanned stop and provision the ship properly, they just had no other alternatives. So they had to come north to Canada. So it is a bit extreme, and it seems really rough because normally you might hear about this happening at a cruise in the Caribbean that maybe they avoid one island and go to another because of weather. So it doesn't seem quite as bad as all of those poor people who were packed in tank tops who now have to come north to the Maritimes, which I'm in Halifax right now, and I can tell you it's not bathing suit weather.
Yeah, you got a turtleneck and a cardigan on there, my friend. Lakeya Allen is on this cruise with her family, and she told us yesterday, quote, "The change was out of the blue. We were already packed to go. MCS sent an email late Friday, and we had flights for 5 a.m. the next day." So what options do travelers have in this kind of a situation?
Unfortunately, Anne-Marie, not a whole lot. You know, MSC Cruises, if you're fully paid, it's pretty much you have a contract with the cruise line. As I mentioned earlier, they are allowed to change the itinerary for various reasons when it accommodates. So basically, you either take the cruise, or in this case, they did offer a full refund, but the refund was in the form of a credit for future use. So that didn't sit well with some people. The cruise line will go ahead and, obviously they'll refund, shore excursions, for example, that were prepaid. And often they'll offer a onboard credit, for example. I didn't hear whether they did this in this case, but often they will as a gesture of goodwill. And then, of course, if you look at your insurance, it might help, but most trip insurance is cancellation, interruption, or delay. And in this case, it was on time, and it wasn't canceled, and it wasn't interrupted in terms of that goes. Now, there is some insurance that has a clause called inconvenience benefit, which may cover other things. For example, if they had prepaid a hotel stay at the end of the cruise in the Bahamas, obviously that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So there was a few little options, but honestly, not a whole lot you can do. This, unfortunately, is something the cruise lines are able to do to accommodate unusual.
Buyer beware is always so good advice. So, Lauren, so what else can you say to people who might be thinking about booking a cruise like this in the future? Should they be watching the weather? Should they be packing a sweater and some flip-flops?
Let's hope not. Well, you know what? So first of all, just be aware. I mean, be aware, buyer beware, as you said. Be aware of seasonality. So if you're going to the Caribbean and you're going in November, which is the tail end of hurricane season, typically just be aware that this is something that could actually happen. There's lots of instances where things can change. And, on the weather-related note, climate change is a real thing. This was a very unusual thing for the weather to be not working in their favor, going from, New York down to Florida, the Bahamas. It was unusual, but those things are changing. And the last I would say is always think about what are your priorities on this cruise. If the priority for your cruise was that you want to be in the sun, maybe don't start in New York City. Maybe fly down to the Caribbean and start there. Because really, what is it that you want on the cruise? I always say to people too, what do you want? Is it the destinations, or do you want to just enjoy the food and the shows and all the activities? And, you know, the poor folks on this particular cruise, this cruise line is known as a budget-friendly cruise line, which means they have less amenities and activities going on. So again, if these folks were looking for sun and lots to do, they're going to be out of luck. So always just think about what's the most important thing. And again, if it was sun, maybe start in Florida.
That is very good advice. Hey, Lauren, happy holidays to you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.